right, guys, welcome to Spanish class, but today Spanish class is going to be conducted in English.
Yes.
However, we are going to be talking about how come we do things the way we do them in Spanish class. So how come we're not using books, how come we're not using worksheets, why are we teaching in this way? And we're lucky to have Profe here because she is the special guest speaker, and we're going to be kind of interviewing her today because she has a master's degree in Spanish linguistics. So she is kind of extremely knowledgeable, I would say, not just kind of, but extremely knowledgeable about not only how the Spanish language is put together, but like what kind of the rules are of like putting the Spanish language together. That's part of linguistics. Linguistics is a science, right? It's like a social science, like psychology or sociology. So she has studied Spanish linguistics for 2 or 3 years? 2 years in Chicago, right? So one part of linguistics, that science of language, is how the language is put together. So if you say like el silla or la silla, well it's la silla, so why, right? So that's one part of it, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. In fact, that's something that we don't really talk about in this class, the linguistics of how Spanish is put together. Because that's not what we're trying to teach you in this class. We're trying to help you acquire the Spanish language, to be able to use it, not like know about it, but to use it, like we would use English. So that's our goal, and we want to talk today about that and how that works. So the second part of Spanish linguistics would be not how it's put together, but how people learn it, or how people acquire the language. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is why are we doing things the way we're doing, and what is it that the science of linguistics says about why we're running class the way we're running it. So, Profe, some people say, oh, yeah, introducing Profe Phillips. Woo! Profe, some people say that, you know, well, I mean, I learned with worksheets. Right. I learned with flashcards. We didn't have the internet back then, but I'm sure if we had that, my teacher would have probably used Quizlet. And, I mean, a lot of people still do that today. We're probably in the minority here, the way we're teaching. So why is it that people, like what's wrong with, why aren't we using worksheets? That's how I learned. Is that how you learned?
Yeah, that is how I learned. So I took Spanish for 5 years, 5 or 6, maybe 2 years in middle school, and then all 4 years of high school. And I had the same teacher every year. And I took the AP test, so it was one of my favorite subjects, and yeah, it was one of my favorite subjects. And so I studied really hard. I got A's in my Spanish classes, and then, so I was like, oh, I'm pretty good, yeah. Like, I'm top of my class, like, I got this down. I studied, like, we had quizzes, like, every day. Ooh. Every day we would either have a quiz or a test, and we had so much homework. And it was like, but we weren't really speaking it that much. We would speak it because my teacher would call on us, right? To just to say out loud what we had written, right? So it would be like a verb like comer. Okay, present tense. You're talking about yourself. You say I eat. So what is the verb ending? And you write yo como, right? But if you're talking about somebody else, it's a different ending, and you say, so you have to fill in this blank. Tu comes. Oh, it's different. So I memorized these forms, right? Then I go to Spain. The year after I graduated high school, my first year of college was in Spain. And I got there, and guess what? I didn't understand anything. And I couldn't talk to people. It was a tragedy. I was really lonely. I couldn't make friends because I couldn't speak with anyone. Ooh. So what good were those 6 years that I studied Spanish just by like writing down verb conjugations on a worksheet, right? I learned Spanish by interacting with people in Spain. That's how I truly acquired language. So that's the difference. You can learn a language. So that's what a lot of teachers think. Oh, you teach Spanish, you teach French, you teach German. Well, just teach it like you teach chemistry, right? Teach it. You memorize the periodic table. Well, you can memorize how to use the preterite in Spanish. But here's the problem. when somebody starts talking to you, right, or you need to write a sentence down, do you have time to think like, oh, what is the rule? No, right? So when you guys are speaking English,
It's ridiculous,
It's
right?
ridiculous.
Like if somebody asks me something in English, I don't have to be like, okay, was it today or was it yesterday? Am I going to say
Present
I
tense?
go to school or I went to school?
Or I
Which
will go?
one? So, but in Spanish, or for me it was French. When I had the exact same experience as Profe. When I was in high school, I took 3 years of French and 2 years of Latin before that. So I had quite a bit of language. French came from Latin, so I should be really good at it, right? And my teachers always told me that I was really good. I was like always making A's. One of my teachers told me, you're like one of the best students I've had in years. I was so good at like filling in those blanks and like memorizing everything, and I was just really, I thought I was really great. So I felt really confident. I went to France in the summer after my senior year, and I did a homestay over there. And I met all these cool people. Like, wow, I'm finally in France. I'm gonna be able to speak. I mean, francés es feo en la clase de español.
Sí,
Muy
feo.
feo. But no es feo in Francia. Okay, so I was in Francia, and I was like trying to speak French to people, and it was like you're saying. I had all these rules in my head, but like I'd meet like a cute guy, right? I want to talk to him, and he'd say something, and I'd be like, okay, what do I need to say next? I don't want to look stupid. He's cute, and by the time I like would figure out what I want to say, like he's moving on to talk to some other person. I'm like, oh man, I missed my chance. So I was super lonely when I first went to France.
What if you met a
Yeah, right. I know. And I'm super like outgoing and I love people. And usually here I like to, talk to people. They think I'm fun to talk to, most of them. And I felt like I was missing this huge part of myself. It was really a lonely experience. And so then I realized like it didn't really work what happened, in high school. Like those worksheets, they didn't really teach me. They taught me some stuff. I know a lot about the grammar of French, but they didn't teach me to use the language, to make friends, and to just live. And I just think that's sad that kids are wasting their time not really learning how to use the language. Yeah, it's sad.
So the thing is that, remember when you guys learned English, you probably don't, but whatever your first language was, did your parents, when you're a little baby, give you a test every week? You know English?
Yeah.
No, they did not. You can't recall? Well, they did not, I guarantee you. And look at that, like you didn't even go to, before you started kindergarten, you're 3 or 4, you've never gone to school, never done a worksheet, you've never taken a quiz. You can have a basic conversation. So how did that happen?
Like Profe, when they're like 3 years old, they can have a basic conversation.
Yeah.
I remember anybody got like a 2 or 3-year-old or 4-year-old at home right now? Yeah, you can talk to them, right? Yeah, they can give you some information, but they've never even seen a worksheet unless they look at your binder, right? They probably see your math worksheets and stuff. Yeah, Profe, so the babies don't take a test. How does it work? How does it work that like a kid growing up with their parents, they never take a test, what happens inside their brains so that they can actually start speaking the language without ever even studying it or even working at it?
Well, what happens is that's why this class is different than your other classes, right? That's why you notice we don't have desks, we don't have textbooks, because you're learning the second language like similarly to how you learned your first language as a baby.
Ooh.
Yeah, so what happens is learning a language, right, is not like memorizing who all the presidents were, It's not something that you can memorize. It's something that your brain, it's part of human nature. You have a part of your brain that's dedicated to learning language. It's natural. You're going to learn language no matter what, right? If you're a baby in whatever country he or she grows up in, is going to learn the language of the people that are surrounding him or her.
So, Profe, if it's human nature and babies don't have to take tests, then what is it that we can do in the classroom, or what do you know that we're already doing in the classroom to help them acquire the language like a baby would, so that they can just use it without having to think so much and work so hard?
So there's probably 2 things that we do in here. First of all, we don't want to just overload you, right? Just like bring in a movie in Spanish and you just, okay, watch this. You'll learn it. No, it's not going to work like that. Because think about a baby who's in the room while a group of adults are having a conversation about politics. Are they going to learn to talk about politics? No. But if you talk to the baby and interact with him or her, it's a her from now on, okay? If you interact with her and, like on the floor with her, you're talking about, oh, what do you want to eat? What do you want to drink? What do you want to play with? You kind of go down to their level and talk about things they care about. What, like toys and food? I think that's about it. Then that's the language that they're going to take in and know and then be able to just start producing it, right?
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually.
Listen to it and they produce it. I remember when my kid was little. Her name's Myra. She's 19 now. Her birthday was last weekend.
Happy birthday.
She's 19. Her birthday was last weekend.
Happy birthday.
Yes. Thank you, Myra. So when she was a little kid, I was a teacher, but I still didn't bust out a worksheet at home and give her a quiz. And I didn't expect that by the time she was 2 years old she'd be able to do this, this, and this with the language. I just, as a mom, you kind of know, I'm going to talk to them, I'm going to interact with them, I don't need to push them, I don't need to work with them too hard, I'm just going to do the mom thing, and they're just naturally going to get the language. So you don't talk to a baby like, well, Myra, what do you think about the politics of the vice presidential platform? You don't talk to them like that. You say stuff like this. You want milk or you want juice? Milk or juice? And you're like, milk, juice. You want the milk, you want the juice? You want the juice. Oh, she wants the juice, right? And so you're kind of talking to them in this way that they can understand about something that they're interested in. Studio audience, will you turn, look at these 3 hechos or facts up here, please, and tell somebody near you something that you've learned so far, and then tell them, what do you think that Profe is going to talk about next? Something we've talked about, and what do you think we're talking about next?
What have you guys It's a metaphor.
Move. Go away. Go away. Go away. Go away. Go away. Because you're in the shop.
Aiden, the camera's on. Studio audience, we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled broadcast.